Chapter 6 Ashes and Dust. The night before the expedition, Linda and Elizabeth make an appointment to discuss their mission to Tokyo. Linda points to a map with a blast radius charted over it. Half of the city was destroyed by something. Most of the capitals are like this. Elizabeth twitches an eyebrow. I guess we can rule out meteors. Monica enters from the back of the room. You'll have enough fuel to bring samples home. Awesome, Elizabeth says. Thank you. Monica looks toward her sister. You have Demas on lookout? Affirmative. Demas's robotic voice fills the room with a sound like static velvet. Both places? Monica adds. Linda grows dismissive and agitated. Yes. No need to get fussy. Monica leaves in a hurry, and Dr. Lawrence looks back at Linda. What's Demas doing? Without an atmosphere, you're in a cosmic shooting gallery. Please leave your load under 50 pounds, by the way. We're sending you to the edge of the blast radius. Linda points again to the circle over Tokyo. Hopefully you'll find something good there. Thank you, Linda. Dr. Lawrence looks at her with appreciation. Of course, Linda says. Her voice plays the moment down. Girls gotta look out for each other. Elizabeth smiles. Well, thank you. Linda shakes her hand. Good luck tomorrow. Elizabeth enters the recreation room with high spirits. There Julius looks up from a game of chess. He's gladdened to see her in a good mood. What's got you smiling? He asks. The drones have done their scouting, the drill payload's landed, and we have enough fuel to bring something home. She walks over toward the wine fridge. Sounds like a good day. He watches as Elizabeth opens a new bottle of wine. He stands to move away from his chess game and join her on the couch. Julius accepts the wine and rests his arm over the back of the couch. Engineers are always up the latest. Elizabeth draws the glass away from her mouth and sucks the wine from her bottom lip. We don't need to be ready until the afternoon. We have time to kill. Hours of drinking and discussion drag on through the night. The bottle comes to its halfway point over the course of 3 hours. Their speech becomes slurred, and they discuss more openly about themselves. The time grows to be nearly midnight when the pair try to play a game of two truths and a lie. Elizabeth sways as she holds her hand up with one finger extended. With each statement she adds another finger. I've been to the president's office. I'm a religious person. And I've dyed my hair black. Julius looks at her with a hunch and tense brows. You're not religious. How do you know? She asks. He shrugs. Religious people don't call it being religious. They say something specific. It sounds foreign to you. I've been to church, she says. I just didn't believe in all that crap. He smiles and nods, but makes no comment. What about you? She asks. Julius shrugs again. I mean, yeah, you could call me a believer. I'm not into the organized part of religion so much, but I believe in something. She places the empty bottle on the floor next to the couch. And why's that? Julius stares off to collect his thoughts and speaks with uncertainty in his voice. I think it's silly to get together under one idea. It's nice to pray, it's nice to share stories, but the idea of making a group to represent God, it makes no sense to me. That's a personal thing. If you act out of goodwill, then that's God's work, not throwing $1 into a basket every Sunday. He shrugs once more, and she looks down toward her glass. I need to ask you something. Elizabeth slurs. Julius raises his eyes. Ask away. How, as a scientist, do you believe? He laughs at her surprise. Don't laugh, she says. I'm serious. I know, it's just funny. Sitting back, he recalls his beliefs. I understand why you ask, and people ask me that a lot. I'm not the only physicist who believes, you know. She looks down and gently slaps his hand in a firm grasp. I know. But I want to believe, like you do. Choosing his words carefully, he begins with terms they both understand. It's more like believing in an existence beyond life itself, like a higher dimensional being. She looks insulted. Are you serious? I am. A higher dimensional being would be in multiple places at once, right? Yeah, I follow. You go further, and you're present at all times in history. Doesn't that sound like God? She shakes her head. Not really, Jules. How come? He asks. Because that's not a living being. It is and it isn't. It's you and me. It's this room and the rocks that smack the walls at night. You've heard rocks at night? Julius shrugs. Demas allows a few harmless ones to smack the hull, but nothing serious. Okay. Elizabeth waves one hand to wash away the side conversation. You're saying the universe is God. They say that God is in all of us, that He's everywhere. So if that's the case, then He must be in a higher dimension. He's not even a He, because He's everything. Living on a higher dimension makes you more than one. You're all. What's your excuse for bad things happening, then? It's not a being like you and I. It can't step in except through us. Which is why an act of kindness is an act of God. When we understand each other, we help God understand Himself. That's really deep, but I can't say I'm convinced. She places her hand on the table. He nods. I understand, but what's the question in your way? She screws up her face in thought. Well, what's the point of life? We choose what the point is. She shrugs. That's not cutting it for me. Like, when is it God's will and when is it our own? He nods and thinks a moment. If you want to look for God's choices, just think about the things that we can't control. Like, out of the infinite possible souls, you and I were given the gift of life, and we live in the same time period. The odds of us meeting are infinity to 1, and to me that counts as a miracle. She closes her hands to her chest with a sad and sweet face. Jules. She reaches for a hug, and he breathes a warm laugh with her embrace. The two forget the matter entirely and choose to watch a film for the night. Fog grows on the windows, and soon Elizabeth begins to snore. Julius turns the screen off and cleans the room while she rests under a warm blanket. With the whole room in order, he turns out the lights and tries his best to wake her. With each shove of his hand, she sinks back into place. He then smiles at her and laughs to himself. He lifts her in his arms and leaves the dark room behind. In the halls, a night shift worker is surprised to see the two of them. Late night, he asks. Julius smiles. You could say that. Do you need anything? Julius thinks a moment and asks, Could you get a glass of water? Sure. Dr. Lawrence's room? Yes, please. In her room, placing her on her side, Julius tucks her into bed. He then takes the glass of water from the assistant and places it on the nightstand. Leaning in the doorway, the assistant is amused with crossed arms. You guys take good care of each other. Walking out the door and shutting off the light, Julius acknowledges him. That's what friends are for. The assistant nods. What is it that makes you guys such good friends? Julius shrugs. We don't have a whole lot in common. I think we try to be the friends we want. Honest, loyal, caring. Sorry, but what's your name again? Tim Cameron. He extends his hand. Tim? Like Tim the Tank Man? Julius accepts the handshake. Well, not the same, but related. Julius slows his stride. Related, he says. He remembers the man who lunged himself at the tank outside New Memphis all those years ago. I forgot they started doing that. I knew him. Not well, but I remember him. Tim nods. Noble guy. Yeah, Julius says, his stride now picking up where it once was. As they approach Julius's room, he puts out his hand to the assistant. I'll see you around. This is me. Have a good night, sir, Tim says. They are about to part ways, but both look back at one another. Julius looks for a resemblance to the Tim he once knew. Tim tries to imagine Julius and Tim the Tank Man in their time, as if he would be reflected in a fellow soldier. And thank you for your service, Tim adds. Julius finds a way back into being grounded again. Thank you. His mind takes a moment before coming back to the present. Dr. Winter turns and closes the door behind him. He refocuses on the task at hand. Tomorrow, he will descend to Earth for the second time.